Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today will be part 1 of our cattle panel greenhouse build. Here you see Chris cutting down 2x4s to 17 inches long. This will allow a 1.5 inch gap for the cattle panels to sit on. He did 2 per cattle panel, so that would equal out to 10 per side and then 3 on the back. Our finished greenhouse wound up being around 10 feet by 20 feet. In this clip, he's taking 2x10s and cutting them down to the correct length. So to add stability to the sides, we interlocked 8-foot boards and 10-foot boards. So we staggered the seams. And so he's cutting them down so that each side will equal 200 inches. So we used 5 cattle panels for this build. And because we wanted the support beams that he's putting in now to not be right on the edges, we brought them in 6 inches from wherever the cattle panels would sit. He's also making sure that the supports are flush all on one side, because that will be the bottom of the wall. And then the lip that you see on the top of the supports is actually where we place the cattle panels to sit. Now you can see him marking out 40 inches all the way down. And then on either side of the 40 inches, he's making a line every 6 inches. And basically that's just going to tell him where he needs to place the supports. And you can see there's a gap at the back. That's so that we can stagger the seams. Here he's just going ahead and placing the rest of the supports all along that wall, right along the 6-inch marks that he made. Our oldest son is helping him build the frame for the greenhouse. And so he went ahead and he had already marked where the supports went along the 10-foot board. So now all he needs to do is screw those on, which will also then attach the 2 boards together. This would have been a lot easier if we had leveled the ground first, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. To make life easier on each of them, they decided to just lay the boards for the second side right up along the one that they already had done. Then they wouldn't have to mark it again. They could just use the first one as reference, which is what you see them doing here. We did obviously build this in location, and we did put a plastic woven weed barrier down beforehand. This is actually where we had our pumpkins last year. And here's just a close-up of how it's flush on the bottom and then the ledge where we're going to actually place the cattle panels. Alright, time to get the sides in place. Bowen was really hoping he'd be able to help Chris get this done, but pressure-treated wood is so much heavier, he was not able to. So Chris just moved one side at a time. We did not videotape how to do the back side, but it's quite literally the same way we did the other sides, obviously just shorter. So Bowen's going to hold it up, Chris then screwed one side in, and then they're going to line it up and screw the other side in. And he just went straight into the sideboard. He didn't do any pocket screws or anything like that. We used two 10-foot 2x10s for the back wall, and then the remaining 3 supports to attach those 2 boards together. And then for the front brace, we're using a 10-foot 2x4 that is pressure treated. All the boards that are touching the ground we use pressure treated for, but anything that was going to be inside once we had the plastic on or was not going to be touching the ground to save money, we did not use pressure treated. And of course at this point I needed to come out and actually see how the work was going. I was actually downstairs while they were doing this part of it, sewing up a couple of different projects that we needed to get done. But they needed my advice on if it was going to work or not. So to keep the ends of the cattle panels together to make it easier to move, we used a tie-down ratchet strap on either end, and then it also made it easier for Chris and our oldest to get them set in. It was around this time Chris realized that we needed 5 cattle panels, and we had actually only bought 4. Because of the cattle panels wanting to lay out flat, having them inside the greenhouse before letting off of the ratchet strap made it so much easier to actually put them up. And like I said before, we're literally just laying them on top of those supports. We did eventually use zip ties and connect the cattle panels together, and we also used pipe strapping eventually to attach it to the wood, but for the most part these kept it in there just fine. Here Chris was trying to use some staples that we had gotten to attach it to the wood, and they weren't wanting to hold, it was taking forever, and it just seemed like more hassle than anything. And so eventually we gave up that idea and, like I said, just used some pipe strapping. They did make sure that the cross braces were on the inside and not the outside of the cattle panel, so that when we did put the plastic over it, we didn't puncture any holes in it. Now I will say, because it was such a big piece, and there was between 2 and 3 of us, my mom did help a bit, we did still make a couple of holes. However, we found out that the clear Gorilla Tape for outside use sealed those babies up perfectly. It's been on there for almost a month now, and there's no show of wear or anything from the heat, from the moisture, and we have gotten a lot of rain here lately. We decided to have a 4-foot door entrance so that we would be able to get the wheelbarrow in there if need be. And so Chris took the front brace off, found the center point, and then measured 2 feet out on either side of that so that he would know where to cut it. He made note of which ones were going to be the actual side frames and then which one was going to be the door threshold. And then he's reattaching the side braces. Once again, leveling the ground out first would have helped so much. But you live and learn. You can see here where he just placed the center wood that he had cut flat for the threshold. Here he's taking one of the non-pressure treated stud 2x4s and marking it where it's actually going to hit the cattle panel so he can start framing in the door. And he does this for each side, and then he'll go ahead and cut it. Oh look, it's like I knew it was going to happen or something. Here he's just making sure that it's going to be level before actually screwing it all together and attaching the pressure treated threshold. The top of the door frame is just another piece of the 2x4 studs cut to 4 foot long. Here he placed the door frame in place and then attached the pressure treated pieces on the side to the bottom of the door frame. He used a 3-foot piece of the 2x4 stud as a top brace to help hold the sides upright. It was rather difficult to keep the boards tight to screw them in though, so he wound up screwing in each side of the greenhouse and then placing a ratchet strap to hold the sides together. When you use the ratchet strap to bring the sides in to the correct width of 10 feet for the greenhouse, it actually wound up raising the cattle panels, which we did not take into consideration. So he actually wound up having to recut the wood for the sides of the door frame. But thankfully we had some scrap we could do it with. So using the ratchet strap was definitely a genius idea, but do it before you measure the door frame, because you can see in the video how it just raised that cattle panel right up. So like I said, we use pipe strapping to actually hold the cattle panels onto the frame, and also zip tied the cattle panels together where they met. Okay, time for the back window. So we decided we wanted a 3-foot window. So he's finding the center and then marking out 1.5 feet so that he would know where he needs to put the uprights. We decided on a 2-foot by 3-foot window. So when he puts the uprights in, he's actually going to clamp the boards to the back wall to hold them while he made sure that they were level, and then mark them to cut. You can see at the base of that back wall that there is a lot of gap between the bottom of the wall and the ground. So basically what we did, because we didn't level the ground beforehand, was we had leftover cardboard and also a whole bunch of grass clippings from last year that we needed to get moved out. So we put down a layer of cardboard and then just piled it nice and high with the grass clippings. We then went back and used that spray foam insulation you can get and put that in all the cracks, and that seems to work. But it's definitely not the most organic. Okay, so the board's been marked and cut. So he's going to hold them once again with the clamp so that he can attach them to the back wall. So off camera, Chris cut 3-foot long 2x4 studs and is placing them where he thinks they should be, and then of course I have to come out and make sure that I like the placement, because let's be honest, he's building it, but it's my greenhouse. So between his level and his clamps, he gets the frame of the window all in place. Alright guys, and that is going to be it for the first video on our cattle panel greenhouse. Second video is going to be up very, very soon on how we actually built the window itself and the door. And then the third video is going to be us putting on the plastic. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And make sure you check back for that second and third video on our cattle panel greenhouse.